staff salaries. I'm not talking about the manager. We're talking assistant manager, goalie coach, first team coach, scouts. Who negotiates these guys' salaries?
I was once told what my salary should have been when I was renegotiating by a manager, and I told him to off.
Say you're at Crystal Palace, right? You're the goalkeeper coach, and then all of a sudden that manager gets linked with a top 6 job, and he's bringing you with him. Do you expect your wages to go up?
I would expect it to go up, and it has to go up, doesn't it?
So you'd sign a 3-year deal. Say after a year, the manager gets sacked, and with that, you're going as well. You've got 2 years left on your contract. How much of that will you actually get paid, and how does it work?
Normally in that situation, or in my contracts, it will always...
Do the staff ever talk with players about salary?
They take the piss a bit, really. They do. Like some physios that I know, some masseurs that I know, are on not far off minimum wage.
How did you get the England job, goalkeeping coach, when you had never worked with Roy?
Very good question. And ultimately...
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fozcast. We have got a special episode today about things even footballers didn't know about football. Thankfully, we are joined by somebody that does know the answers to all these questions, aren't we, Tom?
Yeah, that's not me.
No, it's not you. Super Dave Watson.
Look, I'm so excited. I know there's going to be a little bit of pressure, but I'm intrigued to hear the questions and then fire in with a proper answer.
So, Watto, I thought I knew it all, right? I've been in football 20 years, seen a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But then Tom started asking me a load of questions. And I was like, you know what? I don't even know the answer to this.
Yeah.
Who can we ask? And Watto is the obvious choice.
Because sometimes, Ben, things as you know, you were a footballer for very many years, and in a slick organisation, they want players to just go about their business. They don't need to know details sometimes.
Footballers focus on what they need to focus on and leave everything else to the clever people.
Boozing and shopping,
basically.
That's the perfect scenario for a well-rounded footballer.
Right, we're going to kick us off with there's a real mixed bag here, and there is some player ones, but there is some really good stuff in here, I think. So, first one, staff salaries. I'm not talking about the manager. We're talking assistant manager, goalie coach, first team coach, scouts. Who negotiates these guys' salaries? So, bit of context. When Xabi Alonso has gone into his meeting at Chelsea and they go, who you bringing with you? And he goes, I'm bringing in this guy, that guy, and that guy. And they go, right, well, who takes care of this then? Salaries, negotiations.
Yeah, I think when a big manager comes into a football club like Xabi Alonso and he says he wants to bring in X, Y, or Z, I think there'll be a budget for that, and Xavi might have worked with these guys or not, and he'll be given a guideline and work around it. I was once told what my salary should have been when I was renegotiating by a manager, and I told him to fuck off.
Really?
Yes.
So who were you renegotiating with?
I was renegotiating with the director of football.
And you told the manager to fuck off because he was lowballing you?
Oh, for sure he was lowballing me, yeah.
Why was he lowballing you? Why would
Is that because of the budget and he's trying to spend more elsewhere or keep more for himself?
I think he wanted... No, it weren't for himself. I think he wanted another member of staff, and actually he wanted me to reduce my salary so he could get somebody else in.
No, he did not.
Well, he didn't know, obviously, what my salary was, and he said, you should accept that. I said, fuck off, mate, I'm on more than that now.
That's unreal. I didn't know it worked like that.
These are the pressures of it.
So it's director of football type.
Yeah,
technical director.
Towards the end of my career, when I had more autonomy and backed myself,
when you were a big dog,
yeah, I backed myself a little bit. I think managers in the past had let me down when there's been good negotiations for the staff have done well, but a manager signs his contract before the backroom staff sign theirs, and then we've got nowhere to go.
Question, Watto. Say you're at a middling Premier League team, yeah? A middling Premier League team. Who's a middling Premier League team? Crystal Palace. Say you're at Crystal Palace, right? You're the goalkeeper coach, and you've been with the manager and that little team for 3 or 4 years, and then all of a sudden that manager gets linked with a top 6 job. Yeah, a big boy, a Man United, let's say, right? Yeah. They get linked with that job, and then they go and get the job, and he's bringing you with him.
Yeah.
Do you expect your wages to go up?
I would expect them to go up, but if I never had that opportunity, but if ever I had that opportunity to go to what I would have said were the iconic football clubs of England, as long as my wage went up, or even if it were the same, I would have gone.
Really?
Yeah, for sure.
But would you expect it to go up?
Oh,
Does it go up?
Yeah, no, for sure. I would expect it to go up, and it has to go up, doesn't it? I mean, the responsibility, if you leave a Crystal Palace without being disrespectful to them, and you go to a Man United, a Chelsea, any of them big teams, your responsibilities and role and responsibilities around it become hugely.
So we're saying
massive.
basically then a manager, generally speaking, obviously it's not one size fits all, but they'll get a budget for their their manager, their coaching staff.
Because they normally have an assistant manager, they'll have a first team coach, they'll have a goalkeeper coach, maybe an analyst.
I know one of the top managers brought his goalie coach into a football club and paid him himself until the people at the club recognised that he was top, and then they paid him his salary.
Shut your mouth.
Wow.
Watto. So he was so steadfast on bringing him into that football club
he
that
paid his salary.
even though the club couldn't probably pay him or didn't believe in his vision for what that goalkeeper coach could do, he had to pay him out of his own pocket.
He said, I'll pay him until you back my decision to bring him to this football club.
That's good. That's cool, that is.
This episode of Fozcast is presented to you by Snickers. When VAR flashes up on the big screen, you know what's coming. Everyone groaning, shouting, maybe losing their cool. That's when you remember you're not you when you're hungry. Meltdown? Nah. It's just a sign. It's a sign for Snickers. So next time the referee runs over to consult the screen, keep your cool, keep your wit, you're off your game. When you're hungry, it's a sign for Snickers. Visit snickers.co.uk to learn more.
So what happens, Ben, when you are in a situation where you've got a GK coach, love him, everything else, and maybe he's a club appointment or from the previous manager, and then a new manager comes in and goes, I'm bringing in my goalie coach. You're the senior goalie, and you go, well, no, he works for me. Has that ever been an issue for you?
No, it's never been an issue for me.
Or is it just life?
It's life. You will try and stick up for the goalkeeper coach as much as you can. So when you know that manager's been sacked, first and foremost, I would be ringing the goalie coach to say, mate, have you heard anything? Are you staying on, for example? And in fairness, apart from Watford, who every goalkeeper coach just came with the manager, and you knew that when a manager got sacked, his goalie coach was gone, and whoever comes in, he'll bring his own goalie coach. Apart from Watford, everybody else was a club appointment. So at West Brom, we had Dean Kiley to start with.
Yeah, Cuts, didn't you?
Yeah, he was a club appointment. We had Neil Cutler, we had Jonathan Gould.
Yep.
And they were all club appointments. And when the manager got sacked, they still stayed there, which I think is a good thing, especially for a goalkeeper. You need that consistency, You need that not chopping and changing all the time. Because if I get on well with the goalkeeper coach, I don't want another goalkeeper coach.
Well, he's working, the reality is he's working with a maximum of, 4 goalkeepers, right?
Yes.
Whereas a head coach, an assistant coach, whatever it may be, they're working with a squad of, up to 30 players, let's say.
Sure.
Yeah, they are,
So I guess there's a bigger relationship element to it.
Without doubt, it is. It's more personable and personal. I've got a follow-up question then, Watto. Say you sign a 3-year deal. What is the length of contract, by the way, that you'd sign? What is the maximum you would sign, for example?
Yeah, three
a 3-year
contract
deal
would be pretty normal.
So you'd sign a 3-year deal. Say after a year, the manager gets sacked, and with that, you're going as well. So the club have put out an announcement and said, we regret to inform that the manager's been sacked and his coaching staff will go too. So you've been given the chop, yeah?
Yep.
You've got 2 years left on your contract. How much of that will you actually get paid, and how does it work?
Normally in that situation, or in my contracts, it were always a year's salary.
So regardless of the fact you've got 2 years left on your contract, they are only liable to be paying 1 year of that money.
Yes.
And how do they pay that as well? Is that in one lump sum? Do they pay it monthly still?
You can decide. That's how you feel. Obviously, if you can be strong and get the payment up front, and you can renegotiate with another club.
Oh, you're buzzing.
You're kind of in front for sure. In my situation, or my last situation, I took a monthly payment just because I knew I was going to get a knee replacement and I was going to be out of the game for a period of time. But everybody views it slightly differently. But I do think if you go strong at the top end of it and say, look, I won't pay in full, then there's going to have to be a deal done with both parties.
So when you say a deal done, then this is where it starts to get a little bit naughty, and you might need an agent.
Yeah,
because if they say, right, we'll pay you one lump sum, get you off the books, get you done, but we're not paying you the full year, we're not paying you the full 12 months.
That's normal.
What would they try and cut it to?
I would say that they're going to try and get away with 2/3.
Really?
Okay.
Really?
So in contracts now, particularly managers' contracts now, whenever you see a manager get the bullet, automatically on every social media page, he's going to get £17 million. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So there is no, your contract gets terminated, you will get the full amount. It will be worded in a way where there's a settlement or an agreement.
Only a year.
Yeah.
Is this the same with managers then?
Yeah, I mean, look, sometimes you see some crazy figures banded out there, but I think clubs have to protect themselves a little bit.
Yeah.
And look, we know some managers are earning vast salaries, aren't we? Let's say, anything between 10 and 15 million quid would be normal for a top manager.
Per year,
for sure.
Yeah.
But I still believe even the top ones, it would still only be a year's salary because the clubs are so vulnerable to doing beyond that. I don't know for sure. On my understanding, that's
but
how
also
they all
different
work.
clubs with a different. Obviously, they have to be cute these days, and it isn't just going to be a 4-year payout or anything like that. But different clubs will have adapted over time, won't they? So the Watfords of the world, the Chelseas of the world, people go in and go, "Oh, it's easy money. He'll be sacked in 6 months." They go, "Yeah, but listen, look at their track record.
Yeah.
Their contract and their terms are going to reflect that,
yeah,
aren't they?" So,
do you think a Watford then, for example, would have a clause with
one
a
week.
manager where, where if we sack you, we're only going to be paying you a few months' wages?
I would think a 3-month deal, like the guy who's just left still. I mean, giving him that opportunity at that level, he'd be so desperate to take that job, and that's not been disrespectful to him. To become a Championship manager is tough for sure, and I think the salary would have been good for sure. But the settlement would have been...
The severance pay would be 3 months max.
I think would have been a mess, yeah.
Say if you... So you said that you like to get paid monthly, yeah? So when you left, for example, was it Southampton?
Southampton,
So when you left Southampton, you agreed that for that year that you're due in your contract, even though you're not working, you still get it paid every month, right? What if within that year time frame, you went and got another job at another football club? Do they still pay you that money, or are they at that point allowed to go, right, we're not paying you anymore?
But and that's why sometimes guys do try and get the upfront payment, because if I would have taken a job at 3, 4, 5, 6 months, contractually Southampton stopped paying me then.
So that's what they call gardening leave.
Yeah, that's what they
So
call
that is what
gardening
gardening leave is. So I've heard of this before, and I always kind of was aware of it, but I always thought, do you know what? If you've got this in your contract, so then leading on from that, if there's coaches, managers, assistant whatevers, and they've got a year's money due from a Manchester United, for example, it's not hard to believe that for that next year, regardless of what opportunities get presented to them, say another club comes in from, we really want you to be our goalie coach, we really want you to be our manager, they would turn that job down because they know that they've got an awful lot of money coming in from the club they've been sacked from.
Yes, unless it's a Man United or a City and you say, look, I'm not forsaking my 6 months salary here.
Yeah.
If you pay Southampton X amount a month or X amount as a lump sum so that I still get my money, that's
But the other thing with gardening leavers as well, if you've got like there becomes an HR thing.
Yeah.
So like in regular Joe jobs, the dream is that you get a 3 or 6 month notice period. You go to a competitor and you're on gardening leave.
Yeah.
So you're getting paid for 3 to 6 months. You've got your next job lined up, and then you are like, for average Joes to not work for 3 to 6 months, knowing you've got a job to go into. That is the dream.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely, that is the dream.
This is where football's mad, right? Because there's basically what I was saying is there's a deal to be done absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, of course.
Everywhere,
There's a deal to be done. So another club wants me, but I'm still getting gardening leave pay from the other club, and it's an awful lot of money. But this other club really wants me. So I say to that other club, right, if you paid the club that owes me this money, then I will still get paid from that club, and I'll still get paid from you, and I'll come and work for you.
I don't know the rulings. I don't know the law behind it. I probably should have dug into this before. But there's certain managers that don't manage for a long time. Do you remember when Di Matteo went?
I remember, on gardening leave.
Because... So I think like in days gone by when the managers had like a 3 or 4 year contract and they have like potentially been paid or something, it never materializes because that manager will want to get back into work. So a deal will be done to make sure it happens. But the other thing is as well is you can't have a club dictating like you can't work because then it becomes a legal issue of you're stopping
human
them.
rights.
And obviously there's reputational, etc. So I don't know the exact rulings.
Do you remember when Di Matteo was at Chelsea?
Yes,
he won the Champions League. He won the Champions League for them. Got chopped. And he still had like 2 years
Yeah.
or 3 years left on his contract, right? And they announced that they were placing him on gardening leave, right? And apparently there were all sorts of clubs all over Europe that wanted him. He's just won the freaking Champions League,
That
by
was
the way.
bizarre, that
His
was.
stock was high, yeah? There were clubs wanting him. But because he was getting paid such an awful amount of money, massive amount of money by Chelsea, he was probably just on holiday in bloody south of France, just going,
Mate,
no
he
chance.
lives by us, doesn't he?
Yeah,
I always
he
he's
used to-
always kicking about.
He used to live in Leamington. Well, I don't know if he does anymore, but lived in Leamington, yeah.
That's the lifestyle that gets you then. Win the Champions League, live in Leamington,
Mate,
boys.
he's
not
meant to
wrong.
be some lad. He's meant to be a great bloke.
But this is I don't know back then whether they would have had these like safety mechanisms in place where they'd have only paid him for a year. Do you know what I mean? I think it feels like this is a bit of a new thing now where when you sign a contract, unless you are a top manager, unless you're a Pep Guardiola, yeah? So Pep's next job, for example, right? He's just announced yesterday that he's going to be leaving Man City. For his next job, he walks into it and he signs
That's
a
what he
3-year
wants.
deal. That club, right, will be under such pressure to get him signed that surely if Pep said, if you sack me after 6 months a year, right, I still want my 3 years paying.
Yeah.
And they would do that, wouldn't they?
I think when you go in with the power that he would go in with, and they want him, they would pay him any salary, and the get out is whatever he wants that get out.
He wants it to be, yeah.
But I think the bigger clubs, because I'm just thinking as we're talking there, I'm sure David Moyes, when he left Man United, because it was so bad, they kept paying him even when he was managing against them at West Ham and teams like that. I'm sure they did, like because
Yeah, wasn't he on quite a long?
Yeah,
it was
remember
such
that,
a long
yeah.
contract.
Wasn't he? Yeah.
But they didn't take because they didn't want him to.
Yeah.
They accepted that we're going to keep paying you, but they didn't stop him taking the job.
Because they headhunted him though from Everton.
correct,
Right? He
yeah.
was in a really comfortable job at
Safe.
Everton. Alex Ferguson had personally recommended David Moyes. So David Moyes there is in a massive position of power, isn't he? And I remember, Watto, that like years later, it was like 4 years later, I don't know how long the contract he signed, it was like, David, by the way, just to let you know that David Moyes' contract that he got at Man United has only just been paid off, by the way. No. And it was like, fair dues, mate, fair dues. I can't blame him. He's in a comfortable job and somebody headhunts you. You're in a position of power, aren't you?
Crazy, isn't it?
It's crazy.
I've got a question for you, Ben. Obviously, there's a big disparity within a football club of what players. Let's look at Watford or West Brom or Man United, where you were, between what the players are getting and what the staff are getting.
Yeah.
So particularly a physiotherapist, a kit man, et cetera, et cetera. Do the staff ever talk with players about salary? So a kit man or a masseuse going, Fozzy, like, they're taking the piss here. I'm on X amount of money. Like, do these conversations happen maybe when you're getting a rub down? Because you become really good friends with these guys, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And it's not like they're trying to tell you a sob story or something, or they're not looking for
You're chatting to a mate.
Yeah, they're not looking for like you to go and give them some money or something. But you're chatting to a mate, and if the club are stiffing them over a bit, which a lot of the smaller clubs do, because to work in football is a massive opportunity, and sometimes with these massive opportunities, the clubs, they take the piss a bit. Really, they do. Like some physios that I know, some masseurs that I know, are on not far off minimum wage. I'm being deadly serious here. They're not far off minimum wage, and they're coming into work and they're having to travel long hours. But it's a great opportunity at the same time, and there's a chance from there you can work your way up and you can get to
great
a
on the
club.
CV.
So football clubs are really aware of this, and they're a little bit naughty with staff sometimes. They are, where they pay them absolute peanuts. It looks brilliant. It looks fantastic. To say that you work for a Premier League club or a Championship club sounds brilliant, doesn't it, Watto? But you will know that there's certain people within that building that are in every single day, the longest hours you could imagine, 70-hour weeks.
Yeah.
They get paid peanuts.
It doesn't
for
feel right, surely, Watto,
it's
when
not
you see
right,
that.
But like, I do think the culture of the bigger clubs, whether it's Championship or Premier League, are changing now. And I think because of the way the game's gone, it is about lifestyle. So they have massive staffs, of course, and teams would have 5-6 physios, but there's only 1 or 2 of them would be expected to travel and do match day. Some physios who you'll have just work 5 days a week because they want family time.
Yeah.
And I think the whole HR coming into football, which never existed when we first started or I started, slightly different for a goalie coach. There's only one of me. But I think the senior staff, they roll with it. But because the salaries are so poor in relative terms of the staff behind, I think that's become a department and a group of staff that's run slightly differently to the senior football staff because they're not getting the wages to warrant 7 days, 24 hours a day.
But where the question comes up, though, because they're part of the team, like this conversation wouldn't probably happen if you were a sales executive selling media space at the club. You almost don't come. That's like separate. That's a step removed.
Yeah, it is.
Because, and if you said, "Oh, they're paid minimum wage," you go, "Well, that's the business side of the club." They're in the changing room. These guys.
It's classed as sort of coaching staff.
Yeah.
But coaching staff is part of the team. It is. And gone are the days where you think back to Roy Keane. You remember when Roy Keane said about like the players, the staff walking on the pitch and they're celebrating as well. And it's like, hang on a minute, you ain't done nothing. Them days are gone where you only used to have one physio and one masseur and there would be a real skeleton staff. Them days are way gone, honestly. The Premier League clubs now, you see Man City celebrating on the pitch after the FA Cup. The amount of staff involved nowadays behind the scenes that you don't really get to see but are so integral to it is absolutely huge. So what you have is the immediate coaching staff and the immediate staff that travel. So I'm talking physios and masseurs and scientists.
But it's two team buses
it's
now,
massive.
Mate.
It's 2 team buses. It really is. You've got a team bus of players with 22 players on or whatever. Yeah. And the immediate coaching staff, the manager will be on there, the goalie coach, the senior staff, right? So you'll have probably 8 or 10 of them at the front of the bus, the rest of the players. But on the other bus, it's another whole team.
50-seater.
Yeah, 50-seater, physios, masseurs, logistical staff, like everything. It's massive, right? But that staff that travels now, at the bigger teams only at the bigger teams really, they will be on part of the bonus schedule. They'll be on part of the bonus schedule because they're travelling with the squad. And the ones that travel with the squad, it's such longer hours. It really is. So I don't begrudge them it either. I really don't.
Yeah, you're right. Because we had a gig the other day, didn't we? Like a speaking gig, Ben did on leadership. And there was a chap there from MK Dons.
Yeah.
We were just chit-chatting and he said...
Wimbledon, sorry. Hold on.
AFC Wimbledon.
Don't you dare say MK Dons.
Was it AFC Wimbledon?
Yeah, AFC. Do not say MK Dons when it's to do with Wimbledon, all right? Wash your mouth out.
Was it AFC Wimbledon?
Wash your filthy mouth out. Yeah, it was AFC Wimbledon, yeah. Laurie.
You sure?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Massive apologies. And he was saying, like, we were just chit-chatting about how busy, and he said, I don't work match days. Yeah. So he was like, I don't watch match days, which in his eyes is a positive, isn't it? Yeah. But like obviously that separation comes in, doesn't it? Where you can't be playing these people that travel and do these ridiculous hours the same as someone that has every weekend off.
Well, you've got to think when I say they're on the bonus schedule, they're not on the players' bonus schedule.
No, of course
they'll be on their own staff kind of bonus schedule, so they'll get money.
But it's aligned
if the team
in terms of winning, and
exactly, yeah, it's aligned with that, and rightly so as well, because physios, masseurs. On a Friday night, mate, honestly, they're working till 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, midnight. Honestly, they get to wherever they're going. They arrive at the hotel at 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock. They're rubbing people or massaging or physio. Yes. They're doing all of that until midnight, and then they're up at 7 in the morning. They might go to the gym quickly, and then they are working all morning, getting the players ready. Then they're packing up straight to the stadium. Bang, they're working again, and that's how it goes for them. So it's long hours for them.
It's
really
like the kit men, isn't it? I think people have this kind of
kit
image.
Men are the hardest working of them all. I promise you.
Don't they have this image in mind that it's a kit man, right? Kit men have a team. At the bigger clubs, they have a team.
It though, mate. You imagine how many age groups, because this like the big clubs only have the first team, and they'll have a first team kit man, and they just look after that. But at the big clubs, like your top 6s, even your top 10, when they've got these massive endorsement deals with Nike and Puma and Adidas, right? They get a different travel top. They'll have a different travel top for in 2 weeks' time. So they need to make sure that's prepped, ready, good to go. There's a certain T-shirt need to be worn on a certain day. Like there's much for them to do.
They work with, who were you speaking to? It was a Premier League kit man speaking to relatively recently, and he will personally speak to the kit manufacturers about releases. Not only releases, embargo dates. You know a thing or two about that, don't you? Leaking first team kits.
The amount of football boots that come into a building as well, isn't there? Every time there's a new release of a new colourway, which is every 2 months, is it, or 3 months, something like that. Anyway, right? There is, mate, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of boxes arrive. It's like a big Nike truck just reverses into the kitman's depot area, and they just shove it all
Are they
up.
the most organised people in the building?
Yeah, they have to be. Mate, their checklist on a Friday for travel day is phenomenal.
But some of the stuff they're taking, we're not just talking kits, we're talking like exercise bikes and
Everything,
stuff.
mate.
I think the
everything.
roles changed probably as much as any, beyond all recognition. I remember as a YTS apprentice, you just put your player's boots, 2 pairs, into the boot skip, ticked his name off at the top of the box.
Done.
And the kit were in the other box, 2 boxes, and away they went.
Yeah.
Right, I think we should...
Hold on quickly as well. You mentioned exercise bike before we do move on. So the medical department and the kit man, they are separate. However, they have to still come together and work. So when I'm talking about checklists, the medical department checklist, isn't it, on a Friday is massive. It is such a stressful job. You have this huge list. Everything has to be put in. Everything has to be ready, because the last thing you need on a match day is for a kit man or a medical department to have forgotten something. Yeah, players are such head bogglers. If you have not got that thing that they need at that moment in time, with an hour to go or half an hour,
Where's
20
my
minutes to
favourite
go,
jockstrap?
Exactly that. Where are my shin pads? Where are my favourite jockstrap? You know I don't like my boots put in the steamer for too long. You know I don't. If you haven't got it ready for them perfect, that you are asking for them to have a bad game and then blame you.
That's
and
crazy,
you do not want
isn't
it,
it?
I promise you.
We're working with a kit man at the moment to try and secure some for set props.
Yeah.
2 massive skips.
You know the big metal skips
big
you
metal.
see? Yeah,
So
the bad boys.
hopefully
Yeah,
next season you'll see some like club skips
On the set.
on the set.
Oh, yeah, on the
right.
set.
Great opener.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably one question for the Fozcast,
Yes.
but we might get a couple more in.
And now it's time for Nothing Like It, presented by Sky Sports on Now. Look, I've played in the Premier League. I've sat in those dressing rooms on big weekends, final days, must-win games. And I've watched just as many from the sofa. I've felt what it's like when a stadium goes absolutely mental because everything is on the line. There's nothing like it. The final day of that 2011 season when I was at Birmingham City was one of these massive moments. Going into the last game, 5 teams were in with a chance of the dreaded drop. Us, Wigan, Wolves, Blackburn and Blackpool. We were playing away at Spurs, and as the game was going on, we could hear cheers and boos ringing around the stadium as news was filtering through from the other games going on at the same time. I'll always remember our fans trying to get the message to us that because of results elsewhere, we had fallen into the relegation zone. The pressure intensified, and when that happens, it can either help you or hinder you. And unfortunately for us, we conceded a late goal, which sealed our fate. And despite winning the League Cup that year, we were relegated from the Premier League. Premier League football. There's nothing like it. Premier League has the whole country watching. Make sure you're one of them. Stream Sky Sports on Now. Head to nowtv.com. 18 plus, UK only, broadband speeds of 2.5 megabytes per second required.
Right, I've got a question directly for you, Watto. I don't think I've ever asked you this. You got the England job, so you were the goalkeeping coach with England, and you did 2 tournaments, right?
3 tournaments.
3 tournaments. Just quickly, what were the tournaments you did?
2 Euros and a World Cup.
Russia, Brazil, and
So I did Poland, Ukraine first.
Yeah.
Then I did Brazil.
Yeah.
And then I did France.
So 3 tournaments. How did you get the England job, goalkeeping coach, when you had never worked with Roy? How did that dynamic work?
A very good question. And ultimately, I probably don't ultimately know the answer. I know the moving parts behind it. And obviously, I had a phone call with Roy. I had a phone call with Ray Clements. Joe Hart phoned me to tell me that he'd been asked by Roy Hodgson what he thought of me as a goalie coach. But Roy said to him quite openly that the job were between me and another. And I still to this day don't know
who the other was.
Another was.
So you reckon Big Joe is worthy of a bottle of champagne?
Big Joe's probably been worthy of more than 1 or 2 bottles of champagne, yeah.
Can I throw my name in the hat there as well?
Go on.
I got a phone call from Roy as well.
Did you?
So obviously I just left that season at West Brom. My first season with West Brom, Roy was the manager.
So was
obviously.
Cuts busy or something? Or?
No, Cuts wasn't the goalie coach at the time.
I'm joking.
It was Dean
He'd
Kiley.
not even got his gloves on then, mate.
Yeah, Dean Kiley was the goalie coach at West Brom at the time,
Yeah.
and Dean, I don't know whether he was maybe involved or had a shout of it or chance of it or what. I don't know.
Honestly, I don't know, mate.
But the season before, obviously, I'd been at Birmingham with Watto.
Yeah.
And then with Roy having Joe as the first choice goalkeeper, I think the obvious choice as a manager when you're trying to pick your coaching staff is look for coaches that have worked with the players before. So then you'd go to the number one, who was Joe Barr, and you say, who do you think should be the England goalkeeper coach? And obviously, because he's the best goalkeeper coach in the world, Super Dave Watto, he would have said Dave Watson for sure. And then he needs a few more character references. So obviously, I just finished the season with Roy. He gives me a ring. What do you think of Watto? Oh, he's top, mate. He's absolutely top. He's brilliant. Give him the job. Give him massive wages as well because he deserves them. And I'm pretty sure that having worked with Joe, having worked with me, it was a bit of a no-brainer for Roy, really, wasn't it?
I think so, and I don't and I'm really grateful for your input and Joe's because obviously it was life changing for me just in my football world to ever work for your country is like mind blowing. You know what I mean? But what I do think is that Roy were very clever, and I'm really gutted for him and me and Gary really that it didn't work out because I thought in the end he had a real dynamic staff because he had himself and Ray Lewington, who were like the older senior figures who really knew football inside out and did what they did.
Lovely blokes, honestly.
Yeah, incredible guys.
Top guys.
But then
yeah.
I thought the connection that he gained through having Gary, who'd obviously done
Gary
it,
Neville,
seen
right?
it,
Yeah.
with the players and bringing me on, who obviously had the relationship with the goalies, but was still at an age where I could interact well with the outfield players, especially when I got more autonomy within the group and things like that. And I thought the dynamic worked really well. Obviously, look, we didn't do anything in the tournaments, but I think as a model, I thought the model were very clever.
I agree, yeah.
Was that the proudest moment of your career, Watto?
Yeah, undoubtedly. I can remember that first match now. I'll never forget it. Norway away. Stood singing the national anthem. And like, oh my God. It was unreal. Honestly, unreal.
Did you get given the job to do the substitution straight away?
Yeah. I didn't like that job.
You know, there's that guy who's always there with the ref giving him the cards.
my
and all.
God.
There's some pressure involved in that, though, right?
Especially when the board changes to electronic and you're like, oh.
And we've seen what Watto's like
Yeah,
in technology.
honestly, mate. Honestly, like, you know, like if you could have proper sweat patches, oh my God. Them first few games.
Watto is a technology bungling buffoon,
Oh,
isn't he?
yeah.
But then, did you see me in the end though? So I was doing subs boards, iPad on the bench, and the subs. Oh my God! Like international friendly, 7, 8, 9, 10. So however many it got to, the worst days of my life.
But in fairness to him, right, because he was so good at doing it, like fast forward a few years, you're doing all of what you've just said, and all the set pieces, and all the the videos and stuff. You're standing up, and he's doing the set pieces, like saying, right, so this is your job here, you're marking here, you're on front post space. He's setting all of that up for everybody, for the clubs he was at, for England.
Yes.
Phenomenal.
I've never asked you about how it came to be, so that was quite interesting. And that actually answers my other question as to why there is a Ben Foster pavilion and a Joe Hart tennis court within your manor.
Within his grounds, within his
That's
grounds.
correct. And I put a fresh bunch of flowers on every week to thank them.
Yeah.
Right, next question. How often are real conversations held in a club outside the manager's office? For example, have you as a coach, Watto, or Ben as a player, have you ever said, right, player X, lads, we can move on because that bad egg has gone? Is this ever publicly aired, or is this the confines of the manager's office? Like, is this an open question, like where someone goes, "Thank God, lads, he's gone because he was rotten"?
I'll be really honest with you. Look, when things were bad with certain managers at certain clubs with me, and managers moved away, players could smell it and see it. And I've gone into a physio room, never the sanctuary of the dressing room with all the lads, but like you're having a bit of banter. You can feel the airs change straight away. And I've gone, we're all right now, lads. Fucking HMS rudderless, we're back on track, and away we go. You know, but you have to break the ice somehow. But of course, when I've worked with managers who I've been really close with, then I would say to senior players at that time that I feel really let down, and I should have got sacked with that guy, and you have let him down and me down.
And there's conversations you've
and I've
had.
had serious conversations with the leadership groups.
And how's the reaction been? Has there been a accountability, or have you been told to fuck off?
A bit of both, to be fair. But I had to have my say because I think they had let managers and coaches
Did that
down
change
in
your
the past.
relationship with them moving forward?
No, it's big boys' world, isn't it? But like, I'm not going to stay there when my colleagues have left the job when I think the players have let them down.
Yeah.
But also, as I've said, you make light of the situation because certain managers have left clubs when they've let the players down.
And what about you, Foz?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's been many managers who I thought were out their depth, and there's not many, but there are some.
I know one name you're going to say for sure.
I know.
Go on.
Pepe Mel.
Yes.
Pepe Mal, yeah. Pepe Mal was out of his depth. A lovely bloke, really nice guy. But he was given an opportunity to coach a Tony Pulis style football team, yeah, and trying to make them play like Pep Guardiola's.
Guardiola, Barcelona.
Yeah. He was trying to get me to pass the ball to Jonas Olsen on the 18-yard box. Who would then turn and give it to Craig Dawson on right back, who would then pass it inside to Gareth McCauley. And we're talking about 6'5" blokes here, yeah.
The recipe for disaster.
It was a recipe for disaster. So we tried it in the first couple of days since he got through the door, and it just wasn't working. Like they didn't want the ball. They wanted me to kick it as far as I possibly could. So after even 2 days, I remember talking to the coaching staff who were club appointments at the time. Weren't Spanish, weren't with Pepe Mal, and they understood the situation, knew Pepe was a great guy, and we had to say to them, listen, this isn't going to work, we can't do it, we can't play that football because we'll get annihilated, we'll get caught out from the very first minute against whoever we're playing against because they'll be able to smell it, and they'll just shut us down and they'll score and we'll lose. Simple as that.
Didn't end well.
And it got to the point where even then the coaching staff had to say to the manager, listen, they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it, all right? And even it got to that point then when the manager, because he was such a good guy, went, I agree. Should we just do what you want to do to the coaching staff? And the coaching staff went, brilliant. We're all
fair
on board.
play
And that
to
was
the.
that.
But,
It was great,
but
honestly.
I know it's kind of you're giving tokens of credit here, but at least the manager's kind of gone.
That's what I mean. If he was a dickhead and he went, no, we're doing it my way, then I would not be like buzzing off him here. I'd be saying he was a dickhead. Like he got us relegated. But thankfully, he decided to change it and do it the way the coaching staff thought or knew was the best way of doing it because they'd been around the squad for so long, and we ended up staying up that season and got safe away from relegation.
And you got his bonus.
There you go. Yeah.
So the conversations that I had in changing rooms. So the All or Nothing documentary. The one exact conversation I found really interesting was when they're in the changing room, and I think it was Eric Dyer and Dele Alli, and Dele Alli was kind of. I think it was Dele Alli, was kind of throwing, oh, lads, it's shit, or it might have been someone else, so forgive me if I'm wrong. And Eric Dyer has kind of held them to task and gone, don't just say that.
Yeah.
Name names.
Perfect.
Right? Let's not bullshit around here because anyone can throw shade around, but let's be specific here. If you're going to call us out, let's do it properly.
Name an individual that's not doing what they're supposed to be doing or not working.
Do you remember the
enough.
conversation?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Is this regular in a changing room?
So regular. This is where, right, so Troy Deeney, right, he gets so many critics and stuff like that, right? He was captain at Watford and he was old school captain, and he would get straight to the point and tell you exactly what he wanted to tell you, yeah? But there were times where he would have to sort of like try and play the nice guy. And I'm sure he was reining himself back. And the lads would come in, we'd be losing 2-0 at our time, and you'd have the same old figures going, this is shit, this is shit, this is shit. And he would just, eventually his bubble would burst and he'd go, name fucking names. Don't just say this is shit. Tell me who you think is shit and tell me why you think they're shit. Yeah. And fucking be honest about it.
So be a big boy.
Be a big boy.
Yeah.
Don't just say the same old shit, because you must see it and everybody sees it. The coaches see it and think, God's sake, we know what the problem is.
Did anybody name names?
Sometimes they would. Sometimes they would shit themselves and just go, okay, yeah. Because it looks like they care. It looks like they're giving it like, oh, I'm a team player and this is, I want so much more. But they're not really. They're just saying generic terms.
Could Troy do arm around the shoulder?
Yeah, a little bit. He could do.
You don't sound convinced.
I would say the arm around the shoulders, headlock in it.
You can do an headlock round the shoulder, I guarantee you that. But I quite liked it because there is just so much fluff, isn't there, in football?
Listen, you know where you are with Troy, don't you?
Yeah, there's so much fluff that players are so scared of saying what should be said in that moment.
I think if you let the players or the captain knock that on the head and deal with the autonomy, like the staff are having their chat about the tactics behind, let all that play out, and then it's dealt with. And if the manager has to pick X, Y, or Z out, he can do that.
Yeah.
But normally, the later managers, the players dealt with that.
Yeah.
The manager talks about the tactics, about how we're actually going to affect the game here. Because we expect you to be able to
deal with it ourselves.
Yeah, for sure.
But it is like, again, going back to Watford, and we had such a turnover of manager, and the managers we had knew that they really didn't have that much power. And so you never really had anybody that was very forceful. So the managers would come in and lads would be arguing. And sometimes you just need the managers to go, whoa, shut up. Yeah, shut up, lads. And they pinpoint the problem. Then say, you're not working hard enough. You're not running hard enough. You didn't tackle there because you shit yourself. And we didn't really have many of those managers that would do that and say that. And you do need that sometimes as well. This episode is brought to you by Expedia and Las Vegas. Don't have a match ticket? No problem. Because in Vegas, the experience extends far beyond the tournament, turning every match into a celebration. Think can't miss watch parties, big screens by the pool, world-class dining, resorts, and nightlife that carries on long after the final whistle. It's football, but layered into something bigger, something you can build an amazing trip around. The kind you plan with your friends where match day stretches into the whole day and every result, win, draw, or somewhere in between, feels like a moment worth celebrating. So if you're looking to be part of the energy without a seat in the stadium, book a trip today with Expedia and turn tournament season into a Vegas getaway.
Right, on the subject of club captains then. So what about club captains that don't play? So this is a symbolic type thing, is it? So Seamus Coleman would have been a club captain. Yeah. Is this relevant these days, or should we just be giving it to the kind of on-field
They've changed
captain?
it a bit now to, like leadership groups.
Yes, leadership groups.
Every club has a leadership group now, right? Where you've got like the 5 or 6 sort of like senior pros or the good eggs, the good guys.
Captain, vice-captain.
Vice-captain. And then just like, normally you'll have a goalkeeper in there because they're sort of leaders anyway and don't mind talking. Basically, the ones who are good at talking, yeah? That's what you want from your leadership group, which I just think is pathetic, the whole thing of like leadership group anyway, right? I just think you should have 4 or 5 players that are good lads, good eggs, that you get together and you go, right, if anybody steps out of line, I'll say something and then you back me up, he should back me up, and then it run itself.
Set the culture.
It's as simple as that, really. But like someone like a Seamus Coleman or Leighton Baines, like they're exactly what you want at football clubs.
Yeah.
If you've got a spine of lads, spine of players that will do that for you, you're cooking.
But does Seamus Coleman, is he almost at the level where he transcends like the captaincy? He is like what's the word? He is like a stalwart, and he's
like an ambassador for the club.
Do you know what? Actually, Humphrey said this about Toes.
Yeah.
We were chatting to Humphrey, and he said he is a custodian of the club.
Custodian.
And
of
I
the
was
club,
like,
yeah.
that is such an amazing word.
Yeah.
And I think Seamus Coleman falls into that category, doesn't he? Where his influence, I remember Tubes telling us when he went up there, how he welcomed him and everything.
Everything about it sets the culture, sets the tone. Jordan Henderson at Liverpool, James Milner at Liverpool, Man City, Bernardo Silva just left Man City, John Stones, them sort of players, that come in, professionals, every single day, do it properly, help the team. They're invaluable. They're so invaluable to football clubs. People just don't understand it because they think that the players on the pitch are the only ones that can influence things, and they're not. It's the culture behind the scenes that influences everything.
Yeah, I love that. Right, I've got a good one here for you. We've talked about staff and how hard they work, longer hours than the players. Watto, how sociable and active is the staff group? So the staff group, they work hard.
Yeah.
Do they play hard? And do the players know half of what goes on?
Of course. Look, when I first started out, when I were with Northampton Town part-time or Oldham, if you had an away trip, yes, you had the masseurs travel, but they weren't working like dogs like they do today. It would be very clear that on them 4, 5, half a dozen trips at most, that the staff would stay up and have a beer. And that was as far as it went. When I grew into bigger staff environments, Southampton being a prime example, when I first went there, the culture for the staff were phenomenal, and I think that's what made that club different. We would have an event every couple of months in various guises, and all the backroom staff would turn up and do things. I remember the first time I ever did, what's the circuit where when you bike without the brakes and all that stuff?
A velodrome.
A velodrome. We went down to a velodrome on the south coast somewhere. We did various kinds of stuff. sailing, but they were really good at that. But most clubs where I've been, I've had to kind of drive it myself and get a group of lads out and get out socialising, and it's been very good. I remember actually when the staff at Norwich got sacked, I were out with the sports science guys and the fitness guys. I was just glad I didn't get a call to get sacked that Sunday afternoon.
You are though. You're waiting, aren't you? You're waiting for the phone to ring.
Do the players ever try and get in on the staff action?
No, because most of the time it's on a Friday night. So a lot of little nights, sneaky little nights out. You might get a few of the younger lads, might be analysis or physios or something where they're sort of free and single. And on a Friday night, they might turn up to dinner with everybody, get all their jobs done that they need to do, and they might just head out to a few of the pubs.
But pre-season is a different animal altogether. So if you're touring, right, and you're in, I don't know, America, Asia or something, this is where the players may try and this is their opportunity to be a little bit sneaky and just sneak a night out, maybe.
Gone are the days where you're able to get away with it, though. Everybody has got a mobile phone. Everybody can take pictures, and you're not getting away with it. I remember we went on a pre-season tour to Sacramento one year with West Brom, and me and Boaz were rooming together, and it was just a recipe for disaster because every night we're in this lovely place, sun's shining. You'd go down and have dinner and stuff, but the sun's shining still till like 9:30, 10 o'clock. Just round the corner was this little strip of bars and cafes, and
with bars.
But I already know that I wouldn't have put you two together.
I know, yeah.
So that would have been a very, very simple.
Do you know what
fix.
it was, right? We were very good at not necessarily playing hard, but we would work hard, though. Do you know what I mean? So the next day, you might have had a couple of beers the night before, but you knew that the next day it was pre-season still, and you're going to be working hard in the hot weather, and you're going to be training like a dog. So we would get up, brave face, strap our big boy pants on, go and train properly, maybe have a kip in the afternoon because you knew you were training again later on. So you just get through it, and it was what it was. But the days are gone, mate. You just can't get away with it anymore. You really can't.
What about your relationship as a player with reporters and journalists? And have you ever been let down by one?
Probably have been let down by loads of them, to be honest with you. But it's the world that we live in, isn't it, nowadays?
Do you always approach them with caution?
You very rarely want to do anything individually with a reporter, so you know that it's always normally going to be a clubber making you do it on a, I don't know, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or you're doing it in the, not the press conference, what's it called, the mixed media zone after the game. And the one after the game is probably the troublesome one because you've got a bit more emotion, you're a bit more, if you've lost especially, a bit more angry, and you know whatever you're going to say is going to get amplified, and you're never going to win because even if you've won, you're only going to be saying nice stuff and it's not headlines. But if you've lost, they want that. They want you to lose and come up with stuff. This has changed though, Fozzie,
because the world that we live in now, that traditional model has changed where you said you don't want to do a one-on-one.
Yeah.
You throw podcasts into the modern world and players do want to have a voice and they do want to say something. And they've got to be really, really careful.
You either be really careful or you're doing it on purpose. Podcasts are a perfect chance for, especially this time of the season, this part of the season here, where we're at the end of the season and players are either thinking about a new contract or they're thinking of a possible transfer or they're out of contract. Yeah. This is their opportunity to go on a podcast and just slip in there a little, oh, by the way, I'm not happy here at the moment.
Mate, we've had it, haven't we? Where we've had phone calls from an agent or a player where they go, they've got something to say.
They've got something to say. And that's their opportunity now.
But you've got to be very, very careful as a player because what podcast you go on. We've always prided ourselves on, listen, you've got to do what you've got to do to an extent to package up a podcast and get listeners to pay attention. Yeah. But at the same point, we've always protected players and, there are a lot of yours personal relationships, aren't they? So, but there are players that will go on certain podcasts and when we see it and we'll text each other and go, got to be careful with that one.
We've had loads of podcasts where we've had players, Premier League players, and they've said something. I've gone, you shouldn't say that, mate.
Yeah, we'll pull that bit out.
That will get you in trouble. And they'll go, really? I'll go, yes, that will 100% get you in trouble. No, it's never anything crazy.
You've created that blanket while you get good guests on because it's not about throwing them in an emotional state under the bus, is it?
Yeah, exactly,
but you want them to come on and look. The more open they are, the listeners want to hear not the mundane
Yeah.
black and white stuff. We want to be like getting in behind it like we try today. But you've still got to be very cautious with Premier League.
Have you ever
footballers.
been let down by a journo or any
No,
media professionals?
not particularly, mate, because I didn't have that profile in. Look, certainly when you're doing the England job, people would want to talk to you. I get guys now, probably pre-World Cup again, will phone up and ask me to do a piece on Jordan Pickford or why Trafford should be number one. But I'm not really in at the deep end on that. I had good relationships with them and had a lot of trust. So in my time, you probably get more problem with a local journalist like the Birmingham Evening Mail if they're going after a goalie or are very critical of a situation, where I've had to come across their bows and say, look, you've got to be a bit more like that, but not on the national side.
The thing is with the local ones, you know that they probably care a little bit more.
Yeah.
And they probably have a little bit more knowledge.
Fanatical about it.
Yeah.
But they can be a bit more scathing.
When I
they?
was leaving Birmingham, 2011 it was, when Chris Hughton came in, he brought Paul Trollope in, and there was a story that got put in the Birmingham, whatever, the Evening News or whatever, and it said that we were seeing, me and Paul Trollope were seen having a massive argument in the car park after training or something. I'm thinking, no, absolute lie. So I remember getting to training the next day saying, you see that story about us? And he was like, mate, honestly, it's just ridiculous.
And it was utter bollocks.
Complete. I've got no problem with anybody. Like Paul Trollope, Chris Hughton, nothing. There was never any problem. And they had this story that we had this massive barney. We were seen arguing in the car park. And I was just like, oh, wow.
Probably selling TP5Xs or something in the boot.
Probably. I want to talk to you, Watto, about set pieces. And designing set pieces. So in the NFL, they're like famous for having playbooks, aren't they? Well, they'll like, create these playbooks and it's really well known. Like, is this a thing for a set piece coach? Because obviously you got to defend set pieces and attacking set pieces.
I think defensively for sure. I could still probably get it, but like we would have when a new player would come in, the defensive plays were the defensive plays, and that's how I played it. So my role as set piece coach, any new player or players came in, I spent hours and hours going through our defensive setups and what I perceived their potential role could be within that. So the defensive side of our structure never changed. The philosophy never changed, and anybody that came in, the roles were all different, but the setup and the structure and what were the duties given by me never changed. So I used to go through that with all new signings individually, probably for ones who didn't have as much English, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, obviously interpreters there and whatever, but that were drummed in pre-season. I would always do a big meeting when we'd got the majority of the squad in pre-season on the defending structures for sure. The attacking principles, we had a philosophy, but we still were very game dependent and tried to be a little bit clever on every game and just do something slightly different. Where I know some teams are exactly what you say on an offensive playbook. Brentford, when it all started, that they were the greatest set-piece team.
Yeah.
Their playbook were all based on colours. And I remember when we were actually at Southampton, we played them at the training ground when they were still in the Championship in a pre-season friendly, just a behind closed door thing, late arrangement. And because there were no fans, I could hear their calls, and it were orange, red, blue, pink, whatever, and it were all a different setup for a wide free kick in a corner. So they had a playbook with colours. I don't know if they're still
That was
using
Thomas Frank, that?
That was Thomas Frank.
I remember when we were at Watford, we played the same thing, Brentford, behind closed doors at the training ground on like a Wednesday afternoon or something. And I just remember Thomas Frank shouting the whole game, never shut up. And I remember thinking, you're putting our manager to shame here, boy. Like, you're constantly on it, like shouting like you wouldn't believe, talking. They battered us as well. They bopped us. They'd just been promoted that season.
I think there might have been us as well. But like the interesting thing was, like the coaches weren't shouting the colours from the side. They let the players decide, and whoever's in the 18-yard box would shout to the taker a colour.
So then they all knew what was going to come.
So with these plays, and we've sat before watching football, and a goal's gone in, and you've gone, that was my play. At Southampton. That's like a thing then, isn't it? Where
look, part of a set piece coach's job, you can't say that you the holy grail and everything that you design you've never learnt from. It's like the tactics of football. Like every team now plays with a fullback that goes inside because that's what Guardiola did, or the nuances of the shape. Somebody takes from something, but like when I were doing set pieces, part of my job on a Monday or Tuesday, probably Monday to be fair, I had an analyst who would provide me with every set piece goal across Europe. And I would watch.
Wow.
And I would watch them set pieces. Might not be representative if we're playing a man marking team or the best goal in Europe were against the zonal team and we've got a man marking, whatever. But I used to look through all that because you can learn something for sure.
Good on it.
Bet you didn't know that.
That's why he's the best, mate. That's why he was the best.
That's so interesting. Bonuses. So, what happens when a player misses a performance bonus by a single game or minutes or whatever it may be? Now, the context is you have a reasonable season, a good season, what you'd consider a successful season, and a player maybe doesn't trigger a contract by one game or doesn't hit a bonus or something like that. Do players come to you, Watto, and go, listen, this is a situation, we've had a good year? Do those conversations exist with you?
A player would never come to me with that. But I do believe this is where agents are important in the game because an agent would be on top of that.
Yeah.
And they would know. So like, I'm working with a player in a championship club, and I know if he starts or does 16 games next year, he'll be on a third increase in his wage.
Oh, wow.
And that's only 16 games. So, but if he's not number one at that club, they're making a decision, in my opinion, based on that in his salary,
clause,
in his contract already.
But then this is where it becomes tricky because we've heard this so many times.
Yeah,
about,
the starting bonuses are awful because if a club doesn't want that player or don't think he's got a long-term future at that club, they can
look at Harvey Elliott this season.
Basically not pick him.
Look at Harvey Elliott this season. That's the rumours as to what it's based on appearances. But I've heard about, we all have, probably heard it from one of you boys, but about goalkeepers where it's, X amount of games, triggers a new contract, and they don't play him.
I had a clean sheet bonus at West Brom. They gave me once for I think I was on like if I kept 10 clean sheet bonuses. I think it was my first season at West Brom. If I kept 10, then I got a bonus payment, and I think I kept 9 or something.
What
like
kind
that.
of money we talking?
Oh, it was good money. It was good. Yeah, it was good. Like a couple weeks' wages, basically 2 or 3 weeks' wages. It was. And if I kept that 10 clean sheets, I would have got that. But I think I was one short, and my agent was aware of it. I was aware of it coming into the last few games of the season, and my agent basically just made a call into the chief exec at the time, and he'd had a conversation. They said, listen, we love Ben, we've been absolutely fantastic for him this season, we're going to do all we can to sign him in the summer because I was only on loan. He said, you ain't got to worry about a bonus, he'll get that bonus anyway. And so I was like, brilliant,
that's obviously on the back of the club doing well.
Yes.
So if you've also had it where I think it was at Watford, was it, where you were bonus incentivised on a top 10?
Yeah.
Is that when you were like 4th at Christmas or something? And then on the final day of the season, you dropped to 11th?
We lost against West Ham. So we'd spent all season in the top 10. We lost against West Ham on the final game of the season and then dropped into 11th. So we finished the season 11th.
Which is amazing.
But the club got paid 11th position money, where we'd been in the top 10 all season, and all our bonus incentives were done on where we finished that match day. So if we finished the match day, match week 1 in first position, we would get the maximum bonus paid. Match week 20, we were in the top 10, maximum bonus paid. And then all of a sudden, because they're basically thinking if we're in the top 10 all season, you should finish in the top 10. Yeah. But on the last day, we dropped into 11th. Stinking. Yeah,
that caused a bit of trouble, didn't it?
Yeah, it did cause a lot of trouble.
Do you think clubs like Watford, Southampton, clubs like that, you look at who's just been relegated, Leicester, maybe different situations. Do you think clubs look at the wonder years of finishing 11th in the Premier League for a team like Watford?
We've got FA Cup final as well.
FA Cup final. Do you think
final
owners look back when the demise of the clubs happens and go, maybe we should have looked after the people a little bit more?
Yes, 100%. I don't think you're ever far. If you're those sort of teams, a West Brom, a Watford, a Southampton, I don't think you're ever far from getting relegated.
It's cyclical, isn't it?
You are a couple bad decisions, a couple sackings away, a couple bad signings away from getting relegated. Honestly, I've seen it so many times. Watford, always up and down. West Brom, we had such a strong core of players, spine of players that saw us all the way through. But when we did eventually get relegated, it's because they wasted money on players that were never worth the money that they paid for them, paid them incredible wages, and it starts to cause a little bit of disharmony.
But you see that seeping with any of these clubs you've seen. and it is very, very difficult. Obviously, West Brom have never bounced back.
No.
Watford never bounced back. Southampton have used their money wisely and have managed to do it. But eventually, that pendulum turns against you, and then that Championship's brutal, and you can be there for a long time.
Look at Forest. It could have. They've gone from where did they finish last season? 5th, was it?
Yeah, 5th or 6th.
Yeah. 5th or 6th to being in a scrap this year.
Hey, like that.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
And it's a manager.
I always find the second season more difficult. I remember Chris Wilder's Sheffield United. First year they went up. Oh my
phenomenal,
God.
yeah.
Because they played with
underlapping
fullbacks,
and,
centre halves. First season, what did they finish? Top 10 easy,
Yeah,
weren't
they
they?
were. They
And
were
all of
incredible.
this
Next
season, because everybody tactically knew they weren't changing,
Yeah.
we were all ahead of the curve. Boom, done before you'd even finish.
Yeah, it's true.
Right, I got one more for you, boys, and it's on the subject of number 2 goalkeepers. When does a number 1 goalkeeper become in danger of being thought of as a number 2 goalkeeper? Is it after a certain amount of time on the bench? Is it a certain move that they make, or is it just an acceptance that they're now a number 2? Like when do they get thought of as a number 2?
There's so many different things at play.
Yeah,
Like,
So
I know
many
that's a
different
kind of
factors.
tricky question, but you get the gist.
If you're a goalkeeper that's played years and years as number 1 and you're still of a good age, but then it's a temporary loss of form or confidence, and the number 2 comes in, he does really well for the next 6 months or whatever, and you're sat on the bench, you're still thought of as an able first choice goalkeeper. Some other team will look at him and go, he could be our first choice goalkeeper. As long as we can get him back confident, he can be our first choice. That they will always be thought of like that.
So would Aaron Ramsdale now be thought of as a number 1?
Yes, exactly that. He's still an able first choice goalkeeper because
His age?
of his age and his ability, right? But there's a lot of number 2 goalkeepers that will always be known as a number 2 goalkeeper because when they do get that chance to go in and be number 1, it only lasts for a month or so. Yeah. They'll give you a great first game, a little drop off, eventually it just weighs on them too much. They're not used to it. They're not hard and endurable enough to be the first choice goalkeeper.
It gets to a point though, doesn't it, where like they get to an age and it's got to start happening. And I think quite possibly like Sam Johnston kind of fell into that one where it's got to start.
Sam Johnston's still a first choice goalkeeper.
Yeah,
he is.
But circumstances
Yes.
might
For now,
make him a number 2.
There will be certain teams looking at Sam Johnston right now, guaranteed, saying he could be our first choice goalkeeper next year. It won't be a Premier League team; it will be a Championship team. But there'll be Championship teams going, he could be our first choice goalkeeper next year.
So was it ever in doubt that Dean Henderson, because at a point he got to an age where he hadn't played hundreds of games, was it ever in doubt that it was just when it was going to happen?
Yeah, it just went. And I think the polar opposite of that is the big red flag for me when an established first team goalie is accepting that the number 2 role's his and he's then thinking third and coaching and all that is when you've been number 1, you've played, and you could still stay at whatever level that is as a player, but there's an opportunity to go, and it'd have been like Ben getting the opportunity to go to Man City when Donnarumma's in, he ain't playing. That's not been disrespectful to you. Yeah. You ain't playing, but you've accepted that your role in football is that. And I think a lot of first choice goalies make a decision later on in their careers that that's the way to go. A Scotty Carson would have made that type decision. Yeah. A Stuart Taylor going back even more time when he were at Arsenal. You make decisions and you do really well out of the game.
Sometimes it happens earlier than they might like, and sometimes it can be a little bit of bad fortune or the wrong move, and
eventually you go down that path, and then you never not only do you go down that path, you get comfortable going down that path. There's a lot of goalkeepers that go, do you know what? I don't need the stress and the strain of being the first choice goalkeeper. You don't. Being a number 2 and number 3 can actually be a really cushy job. And there's a lot of people and a lot of players who have made massive careers from being that number 2, number 3, number 4 guy. It can be a lovely role at times. It really can. The first choice brings so much stress.
Exactly, but I'll just counter that because Jack Butland, wherever we rate him now, kind of needed to get out of Stoke and made some bad career choices and ended up went to Man United as that number 2, number 3. But because he'd not fulfilled his career, decided that, no, I want to get back on the coalface because the best thing for any footballer is to play. And he's put himself back in the coalface. He's been up at Rangers 3 years now. For him, I think it's fulfilled getting back in front of a big environment, big crowd playing. They've obviously not had the success he wanted, but he wanted his family and kids to see him playing football on a big stage and not be sat on the bench when his family are coming to watch. So it can change at some point because football is a very, very short career. And if you're prepared early doors to sit on your backside, it takes some change.
Do you think when people go up to Scotland, like Jack or Joe Hart, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Kasper Schmeichel, I think the English fans can be a little bit disrespectful about playing for those teams, in particular Rangers and Celtic, when actually they will a lot of the time play in Europe and they're playing in front of huge crowds, and that's what it's about, isn't it? Like, you can't start throwing shade going, oh yeah, but
everyone we spoke to that's ever played for Celtic or Rangers, honestly, they buzz off it so much. They say it's like they are literally the best teams they've ever played. They buzz off it so much. So there's got to be something in it. So I can't disrespect it. I know I said a few months ago that they were struggling in the Championship, but I do still believe that at this moment in time, or at that moment in time, it would have been that's how competitive the Championship is. But when you're up there and you're in that goldfish bowl of it all, mate, it must be some place to play. Atmosphere, the love, the passion, the want. Oh, it must be amazing.
But all the guys you've alluded to and the goalies that I know particularly well, like you do, it's a tough environment to go and play. You're not going up there for a holiday, by the way.
No, you're not.
You know, it's not like going to Saudi and playing in front of 16 camels.
Oh,
this is real.
On. The pressure's
and them fans expect you to win every match, you know what I mean? And I'll tell you what, I've been there at Rangers in particular when they were getting beat a couple of times at home. Oh my God.
Awful. Ooh, yeah, horrible place to be. Quickly before we end, the goalkeeper, the reason why he becomes a number 2 a lot of the time for me is because they don't want it anymore. The moment you don't want it anymore,
and the head starts turning, baby.
That'll do. You're a number 2 goalkeeper. When you still want it and you've got that itch to scratch and you've got that energy and enthusiasm and want to be a number 1 goalkeeper, that's when you're still there. But the second that you go, can't do this anymore, number 2 is for you then, mate. Yeah. That's it.
When you don't get out of bed with that drive to want to do your working week and prepare for that Saturday match day, which is what everybody lives
changes,
for.
doesn't it? Yeah,
it does change.
It's changed because we had Marcus Bettinelli on, didn't we, earlier on in the season, and I found it fascinating digging into his thought process. And actually, you've got to be a special kind of character to play that role, especially at a team like City.
How many goalkeepers do you know that have played their whole career as a number 1 and then go out at the top? There's very few. Manuel Neuer's still probably doing it. But if you're trying to think of them ones that have never been a number 2 and have always been there, like there's not many that get to go out on the top. There really isn't.
You had when you were 39, was it, when you were at Watford, and in the Championship season you got injured, didn't you? I think Dan Batman played the last 16 games, 17 games, something like that. And then Dan started the season
in the Premier League.
And you were 39?
39, yeah.
What was your mindset? Because you got back in after 6 games, wasn't it? It was Norwich away. You got back in.
I got back in after 6 games, but I was desperate to play still. I really wanted to play. I still felt able to play as well. I think for me, if I knew my body couldn't do it or I knew I wasn't able to do it, then I would have called time on it and I'd been happy being number 2. But I still had that itch to scratch because I knew I was a better goalkeeper still at that age.
You're like, in my view, horribly competitive. Right?
Horribly
competitive. And I choose my words carefully.
Yeah.
Amongst your peers, were you horribly competitive, or were you equal? Like,
no. I was as competitive as you'll ever meet in football.
So you were competitive the most.
Watto with the goalies when we used to go away with England or Birmingham used to just make everything a competition. Everything was a competition.
And I can't imagine Joe was a shrinking violet in competition.
No, and
it was incredible. Honestly,
the time them lads were with England in the last camps we had. Like, coaching was so easy because the level was, phenomenal. If you could have found a video of some of them things that them lads delivered in Brazil, it was phenomenal. And that's why, like, my biggest regret as a coach, and for Joe in particular, that he never really delivered on the biggest stage for England because the level of what they were doing in training, like, you can't believe that we didn't, or he didn't.
Go and have a look. There's a load of videos on YouTube. It's when England first started making content, and they would show a lot of training sessions. But we used to spend a lot of time, didn't we, where we'd have the media department just videoing us.
Early, weren't we?
Yeah, they would just video us, and some of the sessions we used to put on. Even now, I watch them sometimes. I think, God, we were sharp. Look how sharp we are. Like, bam, bam, feet rapid as you like, diving off top corner. What I would be zinging these half volleys in 100 mile an hour.
When I could kick it, Tom.
And they would stick like you wouldn't believe. And I was thinking, we were right in the zone.
Who was more competitive, you or Joe?
I think in training, me. I think in games, Joe. Joe wanted football more than I did. Joe was like, the biggest bundle of energy you've ever met in your life. I promise you.
And Fraser just did what they told him.
Yeah,
you've never lived and breathed football.
No,
but you are horribly competitive.
Yeah, I'm horribly competitive with everything that I've ever wanted to do. And in training, I loved it. Honestly, the will to want to keep the ball out the back of the net in training was phenomenal. And obviously, you've got to have that in games as well. But I didn't live it and breathe it. I didn't love it so much. Yeah. Joe loved it, and he was like, wasn't he? Bundle of energy. Like, we'd finished training with the goalies, and I loved it so much. It was the best time of the day being with the goalkeeper. And then Joe would join him with the outfield players, and then after that, he would be like, "Anybody want to do shooting, lads?" And I'm like, "Joe, shut up, you dickhead! We've been out
and it's hot there as well, isn't it?
We've been out for 2 hours, mate, and he's asking to do extra shooting and stuff." And I'm thinking, "Wow, this is bonkers."
But that's the danger with England, or when you have these, even a pre-season tour, but you're physically more tired. But that's the danger. You come off that training ground and there's so much dead time and thinking time.
Yeah.
It's hard for players to get through that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
How about that one then? That's another one done. I enjoyed that.
It was incredible.
I felt like we've dug the surface of new ground today.
Honestly, Watto, that stuff about coaches and getting new contracts and then getting sacked and gardening leave, all that stuff, phenomenal, mate. And I genuinely didn't know how all of that worked. So thank you.
No, I loved it, boys. Loved it.
Yeah.
Cheers, lads. Up the Fozcast.
Up the Fozcast.
Up the Fozcast. Thanks everybody for watching. We hope you enjoyed the latest episode of the Fozcast. Don't forget to give us a follow on Spotify. Up the Fozcast.